When we discover that people in the ancient past built stuff big and they built it to last, there's a knee-jerk tendency to ascribe their efforts to the need for ceremony and ritual, as if that's all they had time for way back then. But maybe, just maybe, folk had practical concerns as well, like putting food on the table perhaps. Just saying. Hi, welcome. Michael here.
Rupert here.
Today we're going to be talking about a new discovery made close to the border of Italy and Slovenia in an area known as the Karst Plateau. I suppose, Rupert, it kind of plays into our ballpark or our wheelhouse, or whatever you want to call it, because, one of the big questions behind whatever we do as YouTubers reporting on prehistoric archaeology is what do people want out of archaeological research and investigation? Is it to confirm what we'd like folks to have been doing in the past, or to actually discover what they were really up to? Discuss.
It's such a good question, isn't it? Such a good question. It's amazing how often, when you talk about whether it's hunting or anything along those lines, that some people really get quite upset that you're suggesting that this site might not have been a temple or whatever. But in this context, this is a wonderful discovery of, basically, it's the furthest west of a particular style of hunting that we know about. So it's very exciting.
True that. This balance between the ritual and the practical is a theme we keep returning to time and time again. But we hope it's informative in the end. This excited us, for that very, very reason. And there's been no debate about it because the precedent for this discovery is huge. The desert kites in northern Africa, Anatolia, Jordan, Syria, you name it, any arid plateau place seem to have had these traps for ungulates, gazelle, that seem to have worked very well and have, are unanimously pretty much accepted as animal traps and nothing further than that. Yeah. So that's
something that's mentioned, but really only mentioned in passing in the source paper for this, is reference to the Saiga traps of Saiga, that species of antelope, that are found throughout Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, places like that. The style of these traps is very much reminiscent of those. So it's quite exciting to see a very, very similar style of hunting, or certainly animal control anyway, relating to something that, because the Stans are quite a long way further east, but remarkably similar, really, in style. So, yeah.
Okay, before we get into the meat of it, please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you've got a moment, do please look at our Patreon page and our Buy Me a Coffee page, links down below. There are different entryways into finding ways of supporting what we're up to, but each page will be explained as when you land on them. So, do hope you can find a bit of time to think about ways of supporting our poor souls as we
yes,
as we carry on with our what's the word? Our crusade. That's it.
That'll do.
Our crusade for the practical and the reasonable in the face of Anyway, I won't witter on too much. The article that we've chosen to read from, Rupert, ATI. What does that stand for?
It's All That's Interesting. Which is quite nice, really. And we have, we've gone through a number of the different articles from some of the more commonly known science journals and the like, but we really like this one, actually. It's been put together very nicely.
Indeed. It's not that it's, entirely without inaccuracies. But strangely enough, that's one of the reasons why we've chosen it, because it helps to highlight some of the things that are in the paper that probably might otherwise get bypassed. So we'll try to address those as we go on. However, this is the headline is: researchers in Slovenia just discovered the largest prehistoric hunting traps ever found in Europe. Dating back to at least the Bronze Age, these enormous traps found on Slovenia's karst plateau featured stone walls that funneled prey towards pits where they would then be slaughtered. So, the article: researchers have discovered enormous prehistoric hunting traps near the border of Slovenia and Italy. These stone megastructures were likely built at least as far back as the late Bronze Age and were used to catch entire herds of wild animals at once. Researchers uncovered the structures after conducting an airborne laser scan of the area. There are 2 points in there, just to keep as bookmarks, shall we? It's about the dating. Yeah. I think it'd be wrong to associate. We'll come back to associate with the Bronze Age, and catching entire herds of wild animals at once. I think it's a little bit more nuanced than that, I think, as we'll probably see. These stone structures are well preserved and are similar to other large prehistoric hunting traps found in northern Africa and southwestern Asia, pretty much, as we've indicated in the intro there, the relationship to the desert kites, as they're called. While researchers have yet to determine when exactly the traps were constructed, they are likely both the oldest and biggest large-scale hunting traps on the European continent. Can't argue with that. Researchers with the University of Ljubljana and the Institute for the Protection of Cultural Heritage of Slovenia used airborne laser scanning to survey about 350 square miles along the Slovenian and Italian border. They soon found 4 previously unknown stone megastructures. We always like a megastructure, don't we, from the ancient past? The structures, which are described in a new study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, feature stone walls that range from 1,738 feet to more than 2 miles in length. These stone walls eventually lead to a pit. Researchers believe these megastructures were used as large-scale hunting traps to capture wild animals such as herds of red deer. While remaining walls today are about 1.5 feet high, researchers believe they were originally closer to 3 feet tall. Otherwise, the layouts of the 4 megastructures are well preserved. The walls are about 3 feet to 5 feet wide and were constructed using loosely packed limestone. I'll stop it there because that actually gives quite a wrong impression that these were unstructured walls. It seems that they were quite well structured, built in 2 parallel lines of larger limestone building material, then infilled with smaller, rubble, basically.
Yeah.
No, they did have it. That's probably why they've lasted, that they were given a structure in the first place.
Yeah. Also, quite interesting is that the selected terrain for the structures, that they actually incorporated. Whether it was a little limestone ridge, for example, or something like that, they deliberately chose the path of the walls to bring some of the natural features in, to use those as well, which must have saved an awful lot of construction time along the way.
I think it also mentions the fact that they actually incorporated large limestone boulders into the walls as in situ, and perhaps reoriented them a little bit to align with the wall. But they weren't silly. Put more effort into it than needed. The structures had an enclosed pit at the end from which animals would have been unable to escape. The megastructures fittingly look like giant funnels when viewed from above. Maybe a point to, while it's in my mind to say this, what I think about this kind of animal trap, animal management thing, that it's a percentage game. This article's tending to, paint it, as an absolute, and saying that from which animals would have been unable to escape. Yeah, they would. But the point about these is giving hunters a huge advantage, not capturing entire herds, nor,
it depends because some they had these ending in dullings, which is basically it's like a sinkhole, and they'd put a structure inside the sinkhole at the bottom. There are some instances where I suppose they might have been able to escape, but I think broadly that must have been a very efficient thing. Because the Saiga traps in the Starnes, which, as I said, they're so similar in style to these, that they were funneling animals down these curving lines of stones with banks and ditches, actually, but also ending with a deep pit that once the animals were driven in there, then and these extended into historical times, so we know exactly how those traps were used, and the animals just picked off at the end when they'd fallen into this pit.
Yeah,
it's a very efficient way of driving a herd and getting enough meat for a lot of people, I would think. Probably
over-efficient, but that's another story. We can maybe touch on that, we've done here. So researchers have yet to determine when exactly the pits were constructed. However, based on radiocarbon dating conducted on some of the material found inside the structures, it's clear that they fell into disuse sometime during the late Bronze Age. I think immediately need to pick that up because you've got fresh in your mind, some of the arguments about the dating of this, which is really, really important.
They've said in the paper that there's an ambiguity because the dating that they've established, you've got to bear in mind that unless you're actually going to the footings of any structure, then you're not definitively dealing. You know that it must be at least that old, and so they've stated that it's the late Bronze Age is when they fell into disuse. But that earliest paragraph, the opening of the article, is saying that they could be roughly this old, which implies that they weren't in use for very long at all, and that's just really not the case. If you compare them with similar sorts of structures, that it's, for us anyway, it seems most likely that they're late Mesolithic going into early Neolithic, and then used for however long. The fact that they fell into disuse in the Bronze Age, I don't have a problem with that at all. But I do think they're significantly earlier in origin than the late Bronze Age.
Yeah, and it depends whose Bronze Age you're talking about as well.
That's true too.
I'm not actually familiar with the date range for the Bronze Age for this part of the world. It's certainly a lot earlier than ours.
So Slovenia, basically, we're still talking about moderately Western Europe. It would only be about 500 years earlier than ours, wouldn't it? Roughly,
maybe. But being that
when
much
I say
closer,
ours, obviously we're talking about Britain. But
I know, but being that much closer to the Balkans, where things metallic tend to originate from. I'm getting off in the weeds a bit there. But after that point, whatever the stage they fell into disuse, after that point, forest growth covered them up and hid them from view for millennia until now. So it says what these enormous hunting traps might reveal about life in prehistoric Europe. Large-scale prehistoric hunting traps like these are scarce across Europe. The traps resemble similar prehistoric hunting traps in Southwest Asia and Northern Africa, known as desert kites, which were stone structures also likely used to hunt and trap animals. It may be the desert kite thing the earliest desert kites, as we know, and it is received opinion, or the best we know, actually start way back in the pre-pottery Neolithic. And just to put a bit of perspective on it, the area around Şanlıurfa and therefore the Taş Tepe sites, including Göbekli Tepe, there were a heck of a lot of these desert kites. And if you look at the diet of the people at Göbekli Tepe, it was huge percentage of it was just gazelle. And I suspect, I don't know about you, Rupert, that they were overhunting, and probably, may have been a collapse or an upset in the balance there because of the effectiveness of desert kites. Don't know, but it's a conversation. In any case, these newly found giant structures suggest a high level of cooperation and coordination in order to complete. Researchers believe that these structures would have required many workers to complete, far more than the number of people in a single extended family unit. Thus, they would have required the combined efforts of a larger community. In fact, experts estimate that the largest structure that they've found would have required 5,000 hours of labour. They mean man-hours, yes. These revelations may challenge the way scientists think of prehistoric European societies. These structures reveal early humans' ability to organise communal labour forces in order to complete infrastructure projects like that likely benefited the entire community. Furthermore, the accumulation of huge surpluses of meat suggests that the communal feasts and rituals may have taken place. Ultimately, Bronze Age societies may have been larger, more complex and more organised than previously believed. In the end, researchers are saying that the existence of these traps represents a missing chapter in European prehistory. Yeah, you've got to say something at the end of an article like that, haven't you?
Indeed you do.
Yeah.
There's so many aspects here, aren't there? I must admit, I wondered if they hadn't underestimated the construction time on that, where they estimated 5,000 hours of work. You've got... how long is the longest one of these? It's like a couple of miles long.
2 miles,
isn't it?
Yeah.
I would have thought that, bearing in mind how long it takes you to put a rockery up in the garden, I think. I don't know. Okay, we're talking about probably young people doing this work. 5,000 hours of labour.
Yeah, but maybe. Look, whatever any expert works out on paper, there's always a surprise when they do the experimental archaeology. So
that's true. That's true.
So we'll pay lip service to what's on paper. I don't know if it mentioned what methodology they used to establish those numbers in the paper. I can't remember reading that.
I have read the paper 3 times, and I don't think that they said.
Yeah, but
they did say person hours.
Yeah, I think it'd be worthwhile. Yes. Okay, good point. I think it'd be worthwhile reiterating the deliberate nature of these. Looking at the plans of the 4 traps that they've discovered. On the face of it, they think, where's the design in that? Where's the consistency in that? And they've been in the paper. They've gone to quite a lot of trouble to try and place these in the landscape, sort of 3D wise, to illustrate just how well suited they are to the landscape, and just how much
clever
thought must have gone into their place, thought and acquired knowledge, about the habits of herding animals, what they're likely to do, what they're likely to jump over, and what they're not. When confronted with low ridges, 3 feet, you'd think, a deer, gazelle, whatever, well, they could clear that no problem at all. But put them in a herd, it's a different matter entirely. So that's what I mean about it being a percentage game from their point of view. It's not 100%
interesting
efficient.
That the largest of the traps is almost, if you were looking at it from the air, it's almost a diamond shape where there's more than one exit point. So they've allowed for the fact that once the herd has come into one end of the funnel, if you like, that they could break out that way or that way, or go straight on. And they've actually allowed for that in the planning of the trap. Doesn't matter which way the animals went, the trap extended to get them whatever they did. It's remarkably cleverly worked out.
Especially genius, to incorporate not one, but two, but three dolines into the entire structure. Yeah. I think that there are a couple of illustrations that, it's all very well looking from above, but they've, as I say, they've been at pains to illustrate the sideways view, so you get an idea of what the elevation is, and also placing the ridges over which the animals would have to go, making sure that was in a blind spot, so they couldn't see, where they were going, so before it was too late. That clever bit of it, Who would think to do that?
It's fascinating that when you compare these with other styles of ungulate traps, so I've mentioned the Saiga traps already, but even some of the bison and buffalo traps in some of the ungulate traps in North America, for example, where you have a long wall with gaps in the wall, and so the animals they'll follow a wall until they see somewhere that they won't jump over the wall, they'll follow it until they see an exit. And that it just seems to be an instinctive thing that obviously these builders have capitalized on that very well. It does show a very high level of understanding of their prey behavior, for sure.
What other structures in the landscape that we know of have low walls and enclosing features? But that's a story for down the line. A story for watch this space. We have thoughts on these things. I think that's unless you've got anything more, Rupert. I don't think we need to take up any more of the good people's time with this. But links to the article in the paper down below.
Yeah, it's just a really good thing to have brought into the public domain. We don't see this sort of trap. Well, as they've said, it's the most significant thing of its kind found in Europe so far. So we were very excited about this.
Terrific. Yes, much grist to our mill. As I said before, thanks for watching. If you'd like to help the channel, help us do what we do, please do look at our Patreon page and our Buy Me a Coffee page for the Göbekli Tepe Stonehenge project, whatever that might be. But that's it for now. So until the next time, I'll say bye-bye and
bye from me too. See you soon.
Cheers for now, folks. Bye-bye. Have we done Eastern European animal traps justice? That is the thing.
That is the thing. I think we have. Don't you think we did? I think that was all right.